Welcome to the end of eras. Ice has melted back to life. Done my time and served my sentence. Dress me up and watch me die. If it feels good, tastes good, it must be mine. Dynasty decapitated. You just might see a ghost tonight. And if you don't know now, you know. I'm taking back the crown. I'm all dressed up and naked. I'll see what's mine and take it. Oh, yeah, the crown.
All right, and we are live, it looks like, on here now. So we've got the show starting up tonight. We've got a great guest in the back right now. I am still getting my footing on coming back into all this right now, so we're just getting everything set up. So let's go ahead and get ready to introduce our guest into here. Got a lot of work from him, but we're going to go ahead and kind of go over what's going on right now, but we want to get to know the person behind the projects that are on there. Now, if you've waited this long and heard this much from me and are ready to go with this thing, I've got a hashtag on here that says back to basics. We're going to get into that at the end of the show. Hang out for that. Very important that you hang out for that so I can explain that hashtag on there. But this show has everything to do with that and everything moving forward. So that being said, let me go ahead and introduce my guest up here right now. We have got Russ Nohelty here going to join us right now.
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Hey, what's going on, Russell? Appreciate you being here. Look, we got you on the show. We want to talk about what you're doing and everything. Let me go ahead and give you a brief moment to just let us know who you are, what you do, and then we'll kind of go into some questions that I've got for you.
Sure. So I'm a USA Today bestselling author of comics and novels. I wrote or edited all of these books behind me and a whole bunch more. And I also teach Kickstarter through my accelerator, the Kickstarter Accelerator, with my business partner, Monica Leonel.
Which, I mean, both of those things keep you incredibly busy, I'm sure, because I see a lot of books back there. And then, of course, crowdfunding and alone is a big thing to keep up with, which we'll be discussing briefly today, but we will have a different segment that we're going to work on trying to get you on a different show to talk in more detail later on. But now we want to get to the actual product and what you do, and more importantly, why you do it. So if you'll join me with this little adventure here, I'm going to ask you a few questions and we'll go with this and see where it leads and have some fun in the process.
Sounds great.
All right. So the main thing that I always like to go ahead and ask, I mean, you've done a lot of work. I mean, there's a lot of books back there and everything. You know, unless you're sitting in a 24-room, multi-million-dollar mansion with all of the servants back there behind that wall right there, you're obviously doing this for the passion that's behind there, you know, as the priority, and then everything else kind of falls into place. So my question is, what drives that passion? What makes it to where you want to go ahead and create all of this going forward?
So when I started doing this, it was very much about creating worlds that people could live in and proving to myself and other people that I wasn't like a one-trick pony, that I could do a whole bunch of other of things. Over time, it became much more about finishing out worlds. I have 3 huge universes. One is a 12-book series. Then Ichabod is 16 issues long. Our Cthulhu books and our Obsidian Spindle Saga, which is the only book that's still in production out of those 4. And it was it became about like fulfilling the promise that I made to readers. And this whole year has been about finishing out books and projects in the right way, in the way that I always envision them. So earlier this year, I finished editing my series, Cthulhu is Hard to Spell. So I did 3 big volumes of that. And now another publishing company is going to be taking on that. An editing team is going to be taking on that for the next set of books. And then the Godsverse Chronicles, which is 12 novels and 3 graphic novels. We finished that up in June. And then now Ichabod is finishing right now and has launched right now. So it's really become about just, I don't know, it's weird. It went from like I'm going to show you that I know what I'm doing, that I can make a living doing this. And now it's become much more about like legacy and leaving a legacy for the readers and fans to follow along with and to hopefully build and enjoy for years to come.
That sounds great. And you mentioned a lot of projects that you're working on, and like you said, big worlds that are going together. One in particular, of course, we're going to talk about Ichabod. I keep wanting to say Ichabod Crane. It rolls right off the tongue. Ichabod Jones, Monster Hunter. That series is currently on Kickstarter. You've got a campaign for that one right now. Kind of give us a brief thing on there on how the campaign's going, what kind of things that you're offering on there that kind of give you a little bit more of a draw, and then we'll talk about the project itself right afterwards.
Sure. So it's going very well. We've raised more than our goal. We've hit $17,000 just today. So when we're recording, hopefully we'll be over 18,000 by the time this launches. But yeah, this is the 5th campaign that we've done for Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter. We did one for each volume and then a special fifth issue to kind of get the wheels turning on this 2nd, 3rd, and 4th volume. And it's raised, I think, something around $80,000 across all 5 campaigns that we've run so far. I'm a pretty simple person. Like, I like books. So when I do campaigns, I do books and pins. So like there's a bunch of pins you can get for our current campaign and our past campaigns. And there's a bunch of books you can get for both our previous and our past campaigns. So like if you want all 9 of our graphic novels that are in print right now, like you can get up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You can get all of our digital novels, all of our digital comics, and then a whole big pack of everything digital novels. And so, yeah, I'm a pretty simple guy. I don't do a lot of prints. I don't do a lot of other stuff, but like I love me a pin. And this is the special pin for the campaign. This
Let me give you full screen on that one.
Yeah, this Lucifer pin is the one big exclusive that we have for the campaign. And then the rest of it is just books upon books upon books.
Nice. I will say, because of course I've read through the series and everything. No spoilers, because I won't give that away or anything, because there's a lot of twists and turns in here. But I'm going to kind of give it in a nutshell for everyone, so that they know what's going on series-wise. If you haven't even started the series, let me go ahead and kind of give you some clues in here. Let's see. We've got Beelzebub. We've got demons. It kind of pulls me into there just because of that right there. We've got various other things going on there. Monsters, of course, Monster Hunter. But then it gets interesting because it's sorceress, and there's dragon, and there's the Necronomicon, and there's different things in there. Now, as I'm going along, you're probably sitting over there on the other side of the screen going, how much can you throw into a story like that? Trust me, I haven't even spit out half of it. Just whenever you think it can't get any worse, it does, in a good way. I'm talking about as far as going along in a page turner, because it really draws you into the story. What I can say best about this that I enjoyed as much, it didn't skimp on anything. The artwork on par, lettering absolutely draws you in. The accents can be read directly from what's on there. And I will say this right now, and I think you had Katrina Roetz was the editor, correct?
Katrina was the proofreader. Yeah.
So I went through the whole thing. Of course, you read it the first time, just kind of getting a feel for it. Then I went through with a fine-tooth comb afterwards. I couldn't find anything. And I go through everything, and I always find some little nuance in there that I'm like, man, that's just a little thing that if they would have just taken a little more time, I couldn't find anything. To me, that speaks volumes on the passion that's put into this, because it won't go out until it's finished. And I love that. So the whole story, like the whole series in a whole, you cannot go wrong from beginning page to end page of all the volumes. You have to get that deep into it. So all I got to say about that is I've gotten this much into this one series here. I'm looking forward to seeing what else is involved that you have out there, the different worlds that are out there, because if this one dragged me in as hard as it did, you got to have some other stuff there. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Awesome. Yeah. So thank you so much. Like, very few people have read all of Ichabod. You're one of maybe like a handful of people who have read all 4 volumes. And we're very proud. It was one so we had some color assists throughout the book, but it was me and one artist that did literally everything, and then obviously Katrina, who did the proofreading as well. But he did from sketches all the way through final letters, and it's very hard to find somebody who can be that involved in the process and do everything really, really, really well. And Renzo kind of spoiled me, because I like to have my artists letter all of our books, and just some are not quite as honed as Renzo is. But I mean, I honestly and truly believe there may be a dozen people in the entire world who could do Ichabod in the way that in that way. And Renzo is an amazing artist, but it's just the style that he brings to this specific book, and just the way that he creates realism and then also surrealism and has them lay back and forth together, and like seamlessly moves between. Because part of the book is you don't know if he's killing monsters, humans, or it's all in his head the whole time. And the way that he seamlessly kind of transitions between these three different positions as I lay them out really is it's really incredible. And I mean, I'm so blessed to have been able to find Renzo and to be able to work with him for as long as I have. And, you know, we did the first book and we finished, I think, in 2011. And from 2011 into 2019, at least once a year, he'd be like, we're going to come back and do more Ichabod. You ready to do more Ichabod? You ready to do more Ichabod? And I was like, no, not yet. And then one day I texted him and I was like, it's time. And he's like, no. I'm like, yes, we're going to do 3 more volumes of the book. And this is the complete story of the Monster Hunter, at least part of Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter. But yeah, then we have our biggest universe is the Godsverse Chronicles, which is part of Katrina Hates the Dead, Black Market Heroine, and Pixie Dust are the 3 graphic novels. And then there are 11 novels and then a novella to begin it all. And it's all about the god, like basically it's a universe where all gods are real. They're just kind of dicks. And it's massive. It takes place over 13,000 years. And so if you like the comics part of it, you can get the comics. If you want to dig deeper, there are also a bunch of novels as well. And, you know, it's kind of been, those 2 books have kind of combined to be like the great loves of my life, I guess, the great like stories that I've told. I think Obsidian Spindleslug is also great, but since 2010, like these 2 projects, the Godsverse Chronicles and Ichabod, have been sort of always with me at some level.
It is. I mean, it's so much and so encompassing that's in there. And any other projects that I've read in the past where it's jumped around as much with not just timeline, but with where you are in your mind in the story, and then you go back to it, would usually have me going, okay, this is too much. I can't keep up with this. I'm just done with it. With this one, I found myself going, I can't believe I missed that. Let me go back and see where I missed it, and then go back and keep going forward. So it really gets you hooked into it for this world to be doing that. So I can only imagine the other worlds that are out there. Can't wait to delve into them, like I said, as well. But Ichabod is definitely one that they need to jump on and do not sleep on. It is a great series that's out there. The other cool thing that I wanted to bring up is that if you get this within a certain time frame on there, digitally, even if you just get just the digital, then you get digital books to go along with it from collaborators that you got on there. And we're not talking about 1, 2, 3 books. I think it was 9 books on there or something like that.
Yeah, so I'm blowing it out this time. Usually I don't do quite so much, but every week I'm unleashing somewhere between 8 and 12 new books for people, for number ones or collected editions or something for people. So if you back today, you get everything that we unlock for the next 3 weeks. So that's going to be somewhere. I think I have something around 40 books to give away, and I'm going to give them. I'm going to be including them. And if you back on right now, you get all of this week's and then all of the other ones that we unlock throughout the rest of the campaign. And then same thing if you back the next week. And I like to reward people for backing early. I mean, that's the most important thing when it comes to crowdfunding, is to get off to a really good start. So the people that backed already have gotten just a treasure trove of stuff as well. And the next time that you back a campaign of mine, hopefully it will be at the very beginning, and then you'll get all of the goodies for the whole campaign as well.
Absolutely. And what I want to bring up going with this is, like you said, you're giving to the fans, for following and everything. But the really cool thing too is, on top of that, you're actually giving exposure to other creators who are out there to help them out with their series. and giving them some exposure by giving their books on here because you've hit certain levels. That's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I also let my book be used by a bunch of other creators too. So like I think that one of the ways that you bring people that aren't just, so there's this thing about creators just kind of passing around the same $20 bill, right? Like just so one of the things that we try and do is to break out of that and to bring in new fans is like you need to give books and you need to like be in front of other people's fans. And if you can be in front of other people's fans and other people's fandoms, then like they're going to eventually become a fan of yours, hopefully, if they read your book. And so much of it is about just seeing the same books over and over and over and over again everywhere. So if you see like Ichabod #1 in 20 different other campaigns, then when it comes back around, you're just going to remember it at some point. And I think that's something that other creators miss, is that like it's not just about doing it once. It's about doing it 5, 10, 20, 30 times consistently, year after year after year, going on to that show because they might and being part of that prize pack and doing it every single time, because you're going to find maybe one new fan. It might be the host, for instance, of the podcast. That may be the only fan you get on that thing. But like you're going to find one, and 1 times 100 is 100 true fans. And you keep doing, and then you not everyone's going to read the book when it comes into the when they get it at the end of their campaign. But hopefully some will, and hopefully some of those will like it. And you do that enough times, and you just continually like start getting up ahead of steam. And I think when it comes to indie comics, the audience is the people that like comics is so small, and the people that like indie comics is so small on top of that. And then the people that like your kind of indie comic is so much smaller on top of that. Like you really have to almost get like one person, like talk to every single person that you meet, and try and get it in front of them, especially Ichabod. Ichabod is such a weird book. Like it's so, I tell people like, the fact that it still exists 12 years later is like a miracle to me, because it doesn't feature like a hot woman with big breasts, like very elegantly killing people. Like there's no nudity, there's no sex, there's very little cursing, and it's extremely violent. Like it's a very, very violent book. So, and on top of all of that, the main character like is not stylish in the way that he kills people. Like it's it's brutal, and all of his victories are hard won and short lived. And but what it does have, I think, even though it's set in this fantastical world, is like it's very relatable. Like I think everyone has felt like an outcast. I think everyone has felt that they don't belong. I think that everyone has felt that like they are broken and that society has rejected them. And what's amazing and what's amazing about Ichabod is he becomes a hero, not despite the things that society does not like about him, but because of them. All of the things that got him locked away in this asylum are the exact things that bring him into this very unique position of being a hero in the apocalypse. And I think that is a very powerful message, to me at least, is when I try to remember that like you are a hero not because of what people think is broken about you, but because of those things. All of those things are the things that make people draw them to you. They're what give you your unique voice. They would give you your unique sense of the world. And so often we're told to like suppress all of that stuff and be like just some cog in a machine, or just like very milquetoast. And the people that I know who like are really making big changes in the world, they really are like utilizing this very odd set of skills that only they have. And the same thing with me as well. But I think that Ichabod speaks to that. So it doesn't speak to the people that just want to see. I love Lady Death, but like, Lady Death have a nice big sexy adventure, or Red Sonja or something. It's a different, and it might be that person, but it's because I have a lot of fans who love Brian Pulido's work, and me included. But like on another part of their brain, they love Ichabod, not because of the stylishness of it, but because of the relatability. Like, again, all of the things that he's in such this vast world, and this world that like nobody really understands. And like, he's just trying to get along. And I think as an adult, I can say that tracks much more with my opinion of the world, of like what I have seen of people just being like trying to do the best they can without ever really knowing what to do. They're just kind of putting one foot in front of the other, and they're like, I guess I'll do this and see if it works. Nope, that didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so anyway, yeah, I mean, the fact that Ichabod is still around so many years later and has grown its fandom in such a way that it's still around is like really a beautiful thing to me, because again, it's not Katrina, or like, I know why Katrina and Octa are popular like books. Like, I know, like, it's sarcastic, it's sexy, it's fun, it's sleek, it's like nonstop action packed, and I think Ichabod is like that too, but in the way that, like, wow, like you always end an issue and you're like, I can't believe he survived that issue, and that's pretty much how I end every day. Like, I can't believe I survived all that stuff. I guess I get to do it again tomorrow then.
It does. It makes a lot of sense, and you're absolutely right. It's very relatable, because there's a lot of times in the series where it's about pushing himself to limits that he never knew he was capable of, because his first impression is always run, hide, go somewhere else, get away from the, whatever's going on. And he has to learn to have that courage, but not just the courage, but the actual wisdom to follow through on it, even though the voice that's in his head, this is no spoiler on there, but that voice that's in his head is telling him things, and it's not always the right things. So he has to kind of judge and discern what's going on throughout the whole thing. It does make it very interesting, and I do applaud you for doing that and having it where it is a relatable situation. That's probably why it's lasted 12 years plus on this.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's like it's a psychopath in the apocalypse killing monsters, or maybe not, and like, how is that relatable? But I would say, like, you can go to the page and download the first issue for free, and you can see how I try to make the character relatable, in the fact that, like, his first instinct when he sees the monster in the third page is to piss himself and run. And for the whole first issue, the voice in his head is trying to get him to, like, attack this monster, and he's like, nope, nope, and he keeps running away. And like, yeah, that's what exactly, I mean, if I saw a monster in that way, I would piss myself and try and run the other way too. And the only way that he gets past that is like by sheer luck. And then he's into another bad situation, and like, again, his instinct is to be like, no, I'm not a hero, stop treating me like a hero. And in every instance that's like that, he slowly realizes that, like, nobody else is going to do it, and so he kind of begrudgingly becomes this hero, because nobody else will take the mantle, like, and there's just no one else around. And as you get sort of into the Dukes of Hell and all of the demons, it becomes very apparent that, like, he's the only one that can do it, and if he doesn't do it, one of his friends has to risk themselves, and so he decides to do it instead of them. Exactly. And so, like, in these big fantastical scenarios, like, I think it's really important that you bring the humanity out of a character. And not all of my characters are quite that nervous around things, but some of them also have magic. Like, the difference between, let's say, Ichabod and Ali or Octa is, like, they are magic users. They have unlimited pools of magic to draw from. So of course they are more confident. The difference between Ichabod and Katrina is that Katrina has lived in the apocalypse for 2 years. So she is like hardened, battle hardened. She's survived all of this stuff. Whereas Ichabod, like, he just wakes up one day and, like, monsters are there. And, like, imagine waking up from a nap and just, like, there are monsters. It doesn't matter if your father, brother, cousin told you there were monsters for years. It doesn't matter if you trained for it. Having to fight a 10-foot tall hulking monster behemoth with, like, red eyes is going to freak you out. Like, you will piss yourself. Even if you've beaten up a lot of humans in your life, even if you were like a mixed martial art champion, like, there's nothing that will prepare you for, like, taking on the like Lucifer, the Lord of Hell. Like, there's just nothing. And what I really appreciate about the book is Renzo brings that humanity out of Ichabod to a person that doesn't necessarily get humanized very often. Like mental patients usually end up on the other side of this equation, right? They're usually the villain. They're usually the bad guy. They're usually the misunderstood misanthrope at best. And Renzo, the way that Renzo drew it, the way I asked Renzo to draw it, brought so much humanity to Ichabod in a way that I've not seen very often people with mental illnesses portrayed as, which is the sympathetic hero and the protagonist of the story who is successful because of the mental illnesses that they've had, because of all that brokenness. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I've got a couple more questions before we go ahead and wrap this up for tonight, but these are very important questions where I'm coming up on this one, because we're going to we've talked about the project. And in case you missed it, I had the link down here. He's got the link over there underneath his name, but I also have the link embedded into the feed. So it's very easy to go ahead and jump over there and become a part of this. And remember, support in any way you can. And it costs absolutely nothing to use the power of the finger, use the right one, and hit that share button. That's all you have to do. If you don't have the money to do it, nobody's judging you on anything, but it costs absolutely nothing but a split second of time to hit share, and you might get it out to a whole different group of people that actually are ready for this thing. You never know. So, I mean, just keep that in mind. But we were talking when we first started up and everything about everything you've done, and you've got a mess of books behind you that are all these things you've been working on. You've been talking about even more of them that you've been working on. So my question is, with you so busy doing this all the time, what do you do for fun? What do you do for leisure? How do you actually de-stress?
I listen to a lot of audiobooks now. I used to listen to a lot of audio dramas and podcasts, and I still do. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, audio dramas, and actual play podcasts and audio books. And I go to the movies all the time. I've seen, I think, 44 movies in theaters this year. So I'm pretty much seen one or two a week every week since the beginning. And then I listen to just a lot of music. So between those three things, whether it's and I read books. I read a lot of books as well, but whether it's audio books, podcasts, audio dramas, books, movies, or music, I'm almost constantly consuming some kind of media.
Okay, that's very good, because that way it keeps your creative juices flowing. You've got other stuff coming in and kind of inspiring you in different ways, because I mean, music alone can inspire you without you even knowing it.
Absolutely. I consider writing, breathing out, akin to breathing out, and then taking in all of the inputs, breathing in. So you can't breathe out forever. You have to do. And because I used to be writing so much, I'm on writing sabbatical right now, but I was writing so much. Like 1 year I wrote 13 books. I had to consume just a lot of stuff to like get back, to get the ability to like breathe out again. So yeah, I have also started working out again. I keep trying to get into it, but some injury keeps bringing me back to like not being able to do it. But like I'm back on the exercise train again.
Mm-hmm. Now, the other question that I want to ask you, and this is on behalf of those that are going to be watching this, and especially the newer guys that are out there who are trying to break out and get going and everything. And it's kind of a generic question, but I want to ask you because you have a lot of experience in this. The best advice that you could possibly give them to go ahead and get their foot and get a real good foundation going.
Okay, so the best advice, there's advice at many stages. That's the best advice, but I think the best advice at the beginning is one, that not everything has to be monetizable. So like you can just make stuff to learn. Now I ended up monetizing this book, but I drew a comic book called Gherkin Boy and the Dollar of Destiny, which you can get during the Kickstarter campaign. And I did it for one reason. Like I wanted to learn how to make comics better. And I thought the only way that I could really do that was to draw a comic. So I drew a comic in the way that I could do it. Like it's pretty crude. People tend to like it. I still am blessed that people like that story because I think it's very silly and fun. But that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be monetizable. But on the other hand, some people might like it, even though like you don't think that it's like your best work. But then you have to just keep making stuff. Like my wife asked me what I would tell my 12-year-old self the other day. We were watching Paper Girls. Mm-hmm. And I said, stop trying to join things or be the kind of person that people pick and start picking yourself and making things, and good things will happen. So like good things will happen if you just continually make things and learn what you like and what you don't like. I'm not saying don't learn. I mean, I have courses on all sorts of topics, from writing a novel to Facebook ads and Kickstarter and everything in between. And I've been teaching for over a decade, this like creative business stuff that I do. So I'm not saying don't learn and don't do classes, but I'm saying is you need to actually put it into practice. And the best two things you can do is continually put stuff out and then show up. Continually show up and continually make stuff that is consistently better than the thing you did before, until people start saying, "Oh my God, this is great," and like start taking you seriously. And I can tell you that the showing up is not enough, because showing up will be like, I have so many friends who like showed up for a little bit of time. And we're wonderful friends, but like, I'm not going to collaborate them with anything because they never put out anything new, or they put out one thing 10 years ago and never another piece of anything to cement themselves. They made one great work and then they never followed it up, or they made a mediocre work and like they never followed it up. So like, you really, if you want to be, and this is not saying you should be a professional, like you could be a hobbyist and like never care about any of this stuff. But if you want to do this as a job, as either vocation or avocation, either as a hobby, a serious hobbyist, or as a professional. Like the two best things you can do is continuously show up on live streams, at conventions, in forums, et cetera, keep improving your skills. So you whether that's making comics or being on podcasts or whatever it is, whatever your thing that you want to do is, you have to do both of those things. And if you keep showing up and keep making new stuff, you will set yourself apart from 999 out of 1,000 people, because they just won't do it. I remember I had a friend, still one of my closest friends. He told me one time, he was very successful, and he said, like, when you do conventions, he was like, how do you get successful at conventions? Like, you have to do panels at every convention that you do. Like, it's the easiest way to set yourself apart and bring people back to your table. I started doing them, and he was right. I still make about $120 every time I do a panel in that hour after the show, because people will come down from the panel. But he stopped me a couple of, like, maybe a year later. We weren't that close yet, but and he said, I've told 1,000 people to do that, and like, you're the only person that did it. And like, he's like, well, I gotta ask why. And I was like, I don't know, like, you're successful, you told me to do a thing, so I tried it. I did it and tried it, and the worst that happens is it fails. Now, that's not always the case. Like, if someone tells you to go make a blood sacrifice to a demon god, like, you probably don't do that. Like, you don't have to do it just because someone successful told you that's the thing. But like, for the most part, for 99% of this stuff, trying it is it's not that big a deal. Like, if someone says, go try Facebook ads, and like, they don't work, like, okay, they didn't work. They're probably not going to work, because you need to take a lot of time, energy, and effort. But like, if someone says, try this pitch at a convention, or do this. I had this podcast called The Business of Art for a long time, which eventually became The Complete Creative before I eventually shuttered it. And my stated goal was to go and talk to other creators who were successful, ask them a bunch of questions, and then take all of their best advice and implement it. And you know what? 99% of the advice didn't work for me, because that's another thing. It might work for someone else. It might not work for you, which is why you have to try it. But like, for every 100 things that I tried, one of them worked. And guess what happens when one works? You put it in the cog, and now you're not starting from 0. You're starting from 10. Mm-hmm. And then the next time you do it, you add something else. And now you're starting from 20. And like, you slowly build up this stack of knowledge that works for you, or doesn't work for you. Because right. That's often as valuable is to say, oh no, that doesn't work for me. Or more importantly, I don't like it. I don't like TikTok. I'm sorry, I'm never going to be on TikTok. I just don't like it. And like, that's okay if you do like it, but like, I don't like it. And even if it worked gangbusters for me, I would feel beholden to it. Mm-hmm. And I almost don't want to do it. I fear more success than I feel failure on TikTok, because what happens if it's really good and it really works for me, and then suddenly I have to do it? Exactly. Like, I have to make it a part of my stack. So anyway, like, those two things, just like getting better and showing up, like will literally set you apart from everyone. And I can tell you that like that is exactly what I did. Like I mean I think the books are really like, I'm very proud of all of the books that we did, but there were 10 years of me showing up before I ever got anywhere. From 2004 to 2011 or 2014, yeah, pretty much like I got nowhere because I didn't have anything out and I was making stuff and like it was mediocre. And then Ichabod hit, and then Katrina hit, because once you can hit it, once you can hit that mark, you can re-hit it again and again and again and again. But if you don't hit if you don't know what making a great product feels like or looks like or the reaction it elicits, it's hard to even know how to put that into words and what it feels like for your audience as opposed to my audience and someone else's audience, because like we're all trying to elicit different emotions. So really it's about getting better every episode you do, or every book you put out, or every page you put out, and then continuing to show up. And then realizing you don't need to necessarily launch every project that's in your head. Like sometimes they just should not. You should just put them in a bin and burn the bin. But like, yeah, those two things will get you so far in life.
And we'll definitely, I mean, it's been great having you on here to talk about the projects and things like that as well. You have a wealth of knowledge. Like you said, you got all these different, courses and everything that you do, that I've seen a list of them, and we're talking about a mile long. I mean, there's all kinds of things in there, which is great. I've got a couple of them, and I've got a couple of them actually off of this campaign that you got going right now, just so I can keep going and keep growing, like you're saying. So we definitely want to work on trying to get you back to talk about some other subjects in the future, if you're willing to do so.
Absolutely.
Especially if I can get a panel going and get some back and forth. I think that'd be a really good setup to do that. And get a little more exposure, and a little more energy, and a little more education out there. The 3 E's, for what's going on in not only this industry, but any industry, and maybe in life in general. I mean, you never know.
For sure. I mean, that'd be great. Yeah. I mean, I'm always up for doing panels or talking more. I mean, as I said, a large part of it is showing up. So all you got to do, I was talking to someone earlier about like how to book podcasts. And I was like, well, you try and book 100 and one of them says yes. And then guess what happens the next launch? You start with that one and you email 100 more. And then maybe 2 of them say, and then the next time now you've got 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 20 that you can go on at any time that you're coming on. And like, I mean, if you do 20 podcasts every time you launch, like you have done a massive launch, and it doesn't happen. Like, I think people just want it day one, and there's no substitute for time. This is something when you're a little bit further along is good advice. It's like a lot of things that happen for me very easily now, like finding artists to work with, for instance, like it's pretty easy, or editors, because like I have a track record. Like you just can't substitute 10 years. Like you just can't substitute. Like it comes because I've been doing this for 10 years. A lot of people won't even take you seriously until you've been doing it for 5 years and you continuously put out work. So like a lot of fans eventually will be like, well, he's got 40 books. Like he's a US, like I'm going to try it. And some of those people will like it. Some of them will say, I don't know what people are going on about this person, but some of them will like it. But a lot of good things will happen, and it compounds over time simply because time has eclipsed and you have continued to do the work. So yeah, I'm totally up for doing more panels or more things. And you got to show up. Everyone's got to show up. Like I got to show up too. Like it's a little bit easier for me to book panels now than it was before, but like you still got to come up to show them, and you still got to perform. I had my first keynote a couple weeks ago. I'd never done a keynote for this presentation for this writers conference before, and I was like very nervous. And like after it was done, they were like, "Oh, that was great. That was phenomenal." I've gotten like 3 emails about how great it was, but like I still had to show up and do it. Even if it was going to be phenomenal, you still have to show up and do the work. Exactly.
Now, let me go ahead. We've had a great talk tonight and everything, and I could probably go on to this for hours on this, but I want to go ahead and kind of break it up into other segments so that we can make sure that whoever's watching this, they get a blast of the education on one field, and then we'll move on to another one, and so on and so forth. And like I said, we'll be pulling you for some knowledge on some other things as well. I'll definitely be working with you on that. We'll be discussing that later. before I close this thing out tonight, if you'll go ahead and let everyone know where they can find you, give them your elevator pitch, for your campaign right now. And then whenever you're done with that, if you want to wait in the green room whenever I do my closing statements, then I'll get with you afterwards and we'll go ahead and close this bad boy out.
Sounds good. So if you go to my website, just russellnohelty.com without the KS, you'll see all of the work that I have done. A lot of it is Kickstarter exclusive right now. We're not going to start releasing books in earnest until next year. But if you want to see my books, just go to russellnohelty.com/KS or the link that's embedded here. Or just go to Kickstarter and look at Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter. The book's 4 volumes long, 16 issues. It's about a mental patient that escapes an asylum and becomes a monster hunter, but doesn't know if he's killing monsters, humans, or it's all in his head the whole time. Very rarely in life do you get to finish something the way that you always envisioned it. And this is actually how I envisioned the end of Ichabod. You might love it, you might hate it, but it is exactly what I envisioned. And Renzo agrees that it's the right ending for this particular series. So you can go to my website, just russellnohelty.com, or add the /KS, or go to Kickstarter and look at Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter. You can go to get the first issue for free and see if it's your jam. You're going to know very soon if it's your jam or not. You're going to know. It's good. It's going to be very gory and violent and funny. And if you like that stuff, you're gonna like it. And if you don't, that's okay. I've got other books, and there's a lot of creators out there.
Excellent. Russell, I want to say thank you very much for coming on the show and being patient and working with me on some reschedules. I worked with you on reschedules on your end. It was like we were trying to get together and it was having some issues, but we pushed forward. We overcame and adapted on that one.
For sure.
But thank you very much for being here, and I look forward to having you back on again very soon. We'll work on the details of that here pretty soon.
I look forward to it too.
Hey, thank you for being here, and best of luck on your campaign. I know you're doing great right now. Keep that momentum going. You've got how many days left?
Not sure. 21, I think. 21. Okay. I think it's 3 weeks left now.
Yeah, still got plenty of time to go ahead and blow it out the roof. So you're going to do great on this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
All right, let me go ahead and drop you back in the green room, and I'll be in there shortly whenever I get done. All right, so we had Russell Nohelty up here. We were talking about his campaign for Ichabod Jones Monster Hunter, and it's the complete set on there. I haven't said this in a long time, and I've missed saying it, but I will definitely say it. This book gets the Demon Seal of Approval. If y'all remember correctly from whenever I did this before, I say that on very few books that are out there because I really, really, really enjoy them. I never put a seal on something that I'm just going to go ahead and throw on out there. So I just want to go ahead and say it's got the seal of approval. Now, closing statements. I always have a closing statement at the end of my shows. It's been a while since I've been on here. I get the perfect closing statement for tonight. We started out, I talked about the hashtag, which was back to basics. It was absolutely perfect having Russell on the show tonight because we were able to talk about the 2 things that you need to do in order to get a foundation, not only in industry, but in life in general and in what you're doing. Show up and grow. So first off, I apologize for not being here for as long as I have. In a quick response for that, and just to kind of give you an idea, I had 2 of my best friends pass away. I did not take that well at all. It hit me a lot harder than I thought. And then I was dealing with some health issues up to and including some memory lapses. So I was having to deal with the denial factor because I just turned 49 last week. You get to the point where you start thinking, wait a minute, I'm not going to live forever. I had to go through that. So I've been off, the books for a little while and staying away. And I apologize for that because I missed what the basics were. That's what back to basics means to me is whenever I started out in this industry, I was allowed a peek behind the curtain by Luis Torres to see what happens behind what goes on in a comic book store. I go in a comic book store all the time, look at the books, you open them up, you look at them, ooh, ah, and it's good and great, wonderful. Now I go in there and I'm like, okay, that's a great cover. What's inside? Who did it? How'd they do it? What's the lettering look like? What's the weight feel like? There's different things you look at because you've been behind the curtain. That being said, I'm going back to basics with the shows. The shows are no longer about pushing me and my exposure up anywhere. It is about my guest and their exposure. That's all I'm concerned about. So that's why with the shows, I have the live shows are scheduled all the way through the end of October. I have been blessed enough with that enough people have reached out to me that I am fully booked on live shows. Now, don't get upset because I now have added pre-recorded shows. This is one of the first pre-recorded shows here right now that you'll be watching. And moving forward, I'll be able to do other pre-recorded shows. I will only do one pre-recorded show per week because I've got to put a limit on there. And we'll see what happens with that. But that being said, I'm showing up, and now I'm working on growing. So I'm working on the two things myself. So I'm not above in anything that happens on these shows, and I always try to make it about what happens on here to connect it directly into not only our lives, but my life as well. So show up and grow. Back to basics. It's time to get back to basics. Time to keep it indie, y'all. It's time to get back to the waves of change the way it was, because I've said this before. I'll say it again. It's been too long. You throw a pebble in a pond, you get ripples. You get enough people throwing those pebbles in that pond, you get the waves of change. So we're starting to back up. Waves of change are in motion. I will see you next time. Thank you for being here.
I'm all dressed up and naked. I see what's mine and take it. Oh, yeah, the crown. So close I can taste it. I see what's mine and take it. Oh, yeah. Mortal kings are ruling castles. Welcome to my world of fun. Lions settle into sockets. Flip the switch and watch them run. See what's mine and take it. Oh, yeah. My dice keep bastards and sweet bass. My dice keep bastards and sweet bass.
Where the hell did I leave my glasses?